For his first feature film, Washington, D.C. native Eric Younger wanted to have an easy story to follow, coupled with subtext that would make you think deeper about everyday society. We sat down with him and two lead actors, Brendan and Lisette, to discuss the feature film Very Rare.
Thought you hate the cold.
Just needed a break from all the noise. You know, not everyone can just drop everything and leave for the warm beaches of California.
Wow. Cut me deep. You know, Cali is not all it's cracked up to be.
Stories about Frankie comes from out of town. His uncle offers him a business deal and then goes out of town. He borrows his uncle's expensive Mercedes to impress his ex-girlfriend who seems to be doing better than him. And after a party, he wakes up one day and the car is missing. He enlists his ex-girlfriend to try and find the car, and they go on a wild goose chase to find the car. And I settled on that story just because I wanted something kind of propulsive and pulpy where it's like very clear, like they're chasing a car. They need to find a car. So it's very clear, especially as a first-time feature. I wanted a very clear plot that someone could follow. Do they find the car at the end? Do they not? But I like a lot of subtext. I like to explore a lot of themes. Just like on to this very relatively simple plot, I could graft ideas about social media and capitalism and our views of ourselves and how they kind of are all intertwined. And specifically, there's an idea of people my age and younger. America is amazing. Like, you know, if you think about what do we create, yes, America does create things, but our number one export is selling ideas and dreams. That's why we have so many people who come here. The reason for this story is not to come from a place of judgment, but to take apart why we feel like that. Why do we have this need to keep selling the American dream to ourselves? Because like, who are we helping? We're selling, we're just regurgitating the American dream and we're selling it back to each other. And it's like, why do we feel this innate need to do it?
Excuse me?
So we're gonna ignore the fact that this whole thing started because you wanted to impress people with your uncle's car. Or the fact that you suddenly got thousands of Instagram followers overnight? You thought I didn't notice? Who was that for?
Honestly, I don't like social media. I feel like it just takes away from a lot of everyday life. You know, people worry too much about, you know, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be.
I have such a love-hate relationship with social media. And that was one of the difficult parts about playing Sam, I think, because I remember reading the script and, I mean, I love the script and I love the character, but there would be certain lines in there that she would say and I would cringe.
Like which one?
She's like, oh, my followers will love this. I'm like, oh my God, that's disgusting. But at the same time, I don't want to disrespect, you know, social media influencers because there are people who make a great living from this, and I want to, you know, give them their flowers for that and their credit for that because like people do influence and reach people and inspire people through social media. I don't think it ever like it doesn't condemn social media. It doesn't like praise social media. It just is a snapshot of like what a lot of people our age do with social media.
Look at us. The Three Musketeers back together again. Musketeers are kind of chocolate, right? Maybe it uses different kinds of chocolate. So we're kind of like three different kinds of chocolate making one great candy bar.
Babe, the Three Musketeers is a book.
You sure?
Alexander Dumas, the French black dude, wrote it.
I'm pretty sure that's not it. But hey, I'm no food scientist.
When I was writing it, I wrote a majority of the characters for actors that I knew before. So the main character, Frankie, I wrote with Brendan in mind, who was in my last short film. And same for like several of the other characters, they were in my last short. And then there were specific characters who I knew needed to be quirky and feel like they were from a whole different world than the main characters. So we got a lot of actors who weren't from the DC area, who were like from further up north, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, who like brought this kind of tactile grunginess to the film, like just like this kind of like, not as human beings, just like their acting ability like that. And then figuring out the character as Sam, which I kind of had someone else in mind for, but then our DP, Cam, suggested someone that he knew. It was Lisette, and then it went really well. She's really good. Because the main thing was making sure that Sam and Frankie together look good. Like, they have to look on its face, because as the film is like about visuals, like, do they look good together, right? Do I believe that these two characters had like a deep love affair? And so like looking at them, it was like, yeah. And then through rehearsals and just like getting their chemistry like grew like on screen, where it's like, okay, I believe in it. Hopefully at the end of the film, you're like, man, I really want them to be together.
You never tried to define me. In this world, that means a lot. When we were together, I got to just jump off into the abyss with you, and we made the world whatever we wanted it to be.
I'm very privileged to be able to make this film because I'm made up, it's a kind of a monument to my hubris. Like, I made up this story and then enlisted a bunch of people I know and strangers like, hey, come tell the story that I made up, So to be able to do that and call on friends and family to be able to do that and call in favors to tell this story, I'm very appreciative of that. My main thing is I hope that I was able to tell a story that I would want to watch, or like I would watch with my family or my mom or my dad, fiance, friends, something that you could go to the theater, sit down in front of the TV and you're like, just excited to see what's going to happen to these characters, and you're invested in these characters, and then maybe you go back and you rewatch.
Very Rare has already kicked off its festival run, winning a couple of awards as Eric and his team rev up for another film in the coming months.